back to this month's Roundtable, all things technology, marketing, cybersecurity, capital, finance. You're all in one-stop shop for the real estate industry. Joining me this month are Roundtable hosts Anna Maria Kowalik and Rebekah Carlson, two of my favorite people, not to mention two people we need to honor this month. It's Women's History Month, and there is no other space where women have gone farther and have become the biggest driver in a sector as commercial real estate. Rebekah and Anna Marie, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to see you, Andreas.
Yes.
Great to be here.
And Anna Marie, happy birthday.
Thank
to
you.
And to
we don't tell our ages at this point in life, but this is fine.
As long as we're still celebrating, right?
That's right.
That's the important thing. To our show hosts who couldn't make it, we look forward to seeing you next month. And as is always the tradition with our show, it's a 3-part show. Introductions, what's happening in each of our respective business sectors, any top news, top shifts, small focus today, or big focus rather, on women in real estate, if you will indulge me, the two of you. And part 3, what does it all mean and how to take this and your business to the next level, straight from some of the industry experts here and the different news we all care about. So with that, and welcome Anne Marie for your first Real Estate Roundtable. For anyone who missed it, you can tune in to the sector interview with Anna Marie and I on anywhere you get your podcasts or LinkedIn and YouTube. So, Anna Maria, with that, could you introduce yourself to our listeners for the first time?
Sure. I'm Anna Maria Kowalik, and I am with the Inland Green Capital Group. We are part of the Greater Inland Real Estate Group of companies with over 50 years experience and expertise in every facet of the real estate industry. And so our latest and greatest iteration is Inland Green Capital, which is a financier of CPACE projects across the nation. CPACE being commercial property assessed clean energy. It's a very unique and niche financing tool that helps to promote sustainability projects across the nation, whether retrofit or new construction. We can finance up to 100% at a fixed rate, long-term financing of any energy, high energy efficiency, renewable energy, water conservation, or resiliency project.
I love that. That's you're now 25 years. I don't want to birthday and all. I don't want to quote too many years here. 25 years in the space in property management as well as REITs.
Absolutely, and I think that brings a great perspective to what I do currently, because having had all of that project experience and having to budget for all of those kinds of scenarios, now I get to give you the money for it.
I love it. Full cycle, acquisition, disposition, management, and now you're actually helping others fund and do bigger and better things, or more advanced in the green space, I should say.
Very impactful work, I hope.
Impact and profits. It's not very often those align, but when they do, it's quite a wonderful thing.
True.
And Rebekah Carlson, my favorite marketer. Marketing maven, favorite marketing maven. If you would introduce to those tuning in for the first time and say hello to those tuning in every month.
Hey, I'm Rebekah Carlson, and I'm the owner of a company called Carlson Integrated. My background is exclusively in commercial real estate. I started my company 5 years ago after spending 14 years in-house at an investment firm acquiring shopping centers and parking structures across the country. I love telling the story of commercial real estate companies and their teams. And so it's been a wonderful time in a niche where I get to stay very actively involved. I'm also a licensed managing broker. I get to stay actively involved in the industry that I love, and I get to work with a lot of people. So it's a really, really wonderful cross section. And my team, there are 10 of us women who are working on sharing stories about properties and projects and people and great real estate companies across our country.
And a great luncheon every year at ICSC in Vegas.
Invites are going out next week.
Oh, this is fantastic. So, thank you two for joining and being a part of the roundtable. As I like to say, this is my favorite show, my favorite opportunity to hear firsthand from you and to learn more about the industry, see where I can improve. And as our show audience proves, so do our listeners. So, with that, what Anna Maria, what is the biggest change coming down from your side over at Inland? You're financing. Personally, I don't see the inventory to buy projects right now. They're hard to find. But are things speeding up? What does it look like on your side of the table?
Well, because we're financing improvements and primarily to existing properties, we do some work in the new construction space as part of the capital stack, filling gap or replacing higher mezzanine financing or construction loan financing, as well as sometimes taking out part of private or part of owner equity if the situation warrants. But the energy efficiency projects are really beginning to speed up here. Especially in Illinois, since the new law was passed enabling electrical vehicle progression here with infrastructure and charging. This is certainly going to be a next step for us because that is a paceable kind of a project to assume. We also have seen recently a lot of solar projects getting done now that the SRECs are back. And so we're seeing a good uptick in projects happening, and where there are projects happening, there's money required. So that's a good thing.
As always the case. And for those tuning in that don't understand what an SRAC is, could you tell us more? What
Oh,
is an SRAC?
sure. So those are the solar recoverable energy credits or something or other, something like that, I think is the acronym. But certainly anyone who does the solar projects has certain incentives. And basically, here we as the financiers of the project don't necessarily get involved with the incentives. Typically your solar vendor will do that for you. They'll go so far as to apply for them, to make sure you get all of the ones you need and the right ones. And so it's always a real collaboration and partnership with many people and pieces in the commercial deal.
Absolutely. 16 different real estate professionals come together across the life cycle of an asset. And it seems like you're a key one, as we talked on earlier in our last show, one on one, for any developer, investor, or even owner looking to do a capital investment into their property. Why not? See if your money costs less, which it should, and more rebates, which it has, and taking a part of that capital stack where I can put less of my own money as a developer or an owner into the property or amortize it out well is always a nice thing. And Becca, on your side, also in Illinois, I'm up here in Connecticut, nice and cold, but nothing compared to you two. How is things in marketing in your great state and on the brokerage world?
Well, things have been we've seen an escalation and an increase in activity. We've seen an increase in clients needing services, and there's a lot of fluidity in hiring, which we've talked about before on the show over the past several months of how hard it is to attract and retain
Yeah.
members to your team. Marketing seems to be similarly fluid, so we're finding that companies might have some gaps in house and are calling us. As part of that, we're able to see some interesting projects that are coming through. And one piece that I'm hearing repeatedly is that because there is expectation that the interest rates will continually rise this year, and that's been well documented and is well expected, that the earlier part of the year is showing a little bit more uh, flight to expediency of getting deals started and done. So, for instance, I have a client that raised a fund in and finished their capital raise in December, and they think they're going to have it deployed in April or March.
Wow. So no issues on asset acquisition. You're finding the inventory you need. It's out there.
Certainly it depends on your strategy. So whether you're acquiring core plus, whether you're value add, there are opportunities. And of course it matters which sector you're investing in. I think that some are becoming a little bit more creative geographically on what they're pursuing. And certainly, some markets have fallen out of favor. Downtown Chicago is one of those. Am I being diplomatic? I feel like I'm being really good at being diplomatic right now.
I didn't notice till you brought up the diplomatic part, but longer term investors might still be interested. Longer term, downtown Chicago, what I'm hearing. And are your not to jump in, but have you considered PACE programs for your clients? Because now that we've got you,
I love talking about CPACE. I introduce everybody I can to Anna Maria because she's so smart and it's such an important element. And I know I'm not going to steal Saul's thunder since he's not here, but he would talk all day about these sort of incentive programs that are so smart that, and the best part about CPACE is that it runs with the land.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Becca and I, go back a ways. We're very friendly and just kind of miss seeing each other at all those in-person events we used to attend together. But, we've talked about CPACE from the very beginning. She kind of watched me come into this position 4 years ago.
Wow. And 5 years at Carlson Integrated. So literally you both were starting in the different areas, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And growing. Well, so given it's Women's History Month, I have to ask, 5 years, 4 years in this space, many years in the industry. What's changed? I mean, everywhere I look, I see forward thinking and incredibly smart women, men in the space doing new things, a whole new generation of real estate professionals. But as it is Women's History Month, I'd love to ask you guys right from you. What do you see changing, and what's your advice to those coming into the space, besides calling you for business?
Well, I would have to say that, so I grew up in a time, where Helen Reddy's song, I Am Woman, was kind of the rage. And it was like, oh, yes, and kind of the women's lib. Oh, am I dating myself? Kind of thing. And so really, I was always so full of fervor for women's rights and helping other women along, and I always took to the mentor role, and always looked for female mentors as I went along. I think my stint in the Catholic school system had me looking up to the wonderful nuns that were teaching me. They were very strong women, very smart women, so educated and so knowledgeable on so many different levels. And I think they further instilled in me a greater want and desire to be out there and promote women in any position. And then once I started in the real world, especially in commercial real estate, I noticed that it was quite the man's world. And but then, there weren't too many women interested, particularly in finance as well. And I think that's changed over the years. You now have wonderful real estate programs in universities across the nation. You have wonderful mentorship programs like the Goldie Scholarship here locally, and it's and the promotion of women from all walks of life, all ethnicities, and so it's already DEI without trying to be. It's just naturally so. And then I have personally and then Becca can speak to her own experience, but I've been very fortunate to work at a company and I've worked even in my prior career in property management. It was still under the real estate group, the Inland Real Estate Group. So I'll tell you, more than 50% of the officers are women. They've been a great company to be able to promote women across the board. And then this industry, I work with some very strong, impactful women. One is running the Virginia program. Another is running the Texas program for CPACE. There were a pair of women who started one of my competitors' companies and still are at the helm, even after having merged with an extremely large financial institution. And so, just to say that, I'm surrounded by women doing wonderful things, and I'm so proud to be a part of all of that.
Love it. And Becca, I'd love to hear your take on it through your career. Before you hit a great point, Anna Maria, and I'm going to come back to it on education and groups. But that's my point to come back to. Becca, also in Chicago, also in some of the same circles. What about you in your walk through commercial and marketing at this point?
So I actually echo a lot of Anna Maria's sentiments as it relates to seeing women in strong women in leadership positions throughout my career that have been the kind of women who give a hand and help you up and like introduce you to people and welcome you when you want to grow. And I certainly had that situation where I took a 3-day temp job and stayed 14 years. So every role I had at my old company was something that I was like, oh, I want to do this too. So I didn't mean, I wasn't trying to be pushy. I just was bored. And so I just wanted to do more and more and more and more. But I could never have done that if it weren't for our managing director, who was more than happy to take me along, even when I was learning and didn't have a background in business and didn't have a background in commercial real estate. I thought I was going to be a political science professor. I had no idea I was going into business ever. So I no, I just talk business. I didn't know commercial real estate was out there. I didn't know real estate was out there. My stepdad was a pastor. We had a very intellectual home, but we didn't have a very business oriented home, which you can imagine given that kind of a role. And so I didn't understand coming into the field some of the nuances. And in some ways, I think that was a really big blessing because I was able to just blast through them because I didn't know that they were there. I didn't know there was supposed to be an obstruction. So I just ignored if there was one because I didn't think it was supposed to be there in the first place. That being said, I have found that my mentors have actually all been male, people I would categorize as mentors, because I also didn't know I was supposed to look for a mentor. And so I've been, I think I would say, nurtured in my career through really, really wonderful males around me, just as often as females around me. Some of the differences I see today that I didn't see then is that there is a prevalence to mentoring programs, that they're more out there. I get to serve as a mentor, which is so amazing. I have a really awesome young lady at CBRE that I mentor, and having being able to provide opportunities that I didn't know were out there when I started in my career is a change and a growth element. And I love that that exists more frequently now, because I think there's a reality that in business, whether male or female, it helps to have people around you supporting you and guiding you that are in the industry. It's amazing to have family and friends and they love you dearly and they'll encourage you and give their advice and wisdom. But when it comes to navigating the commercial real estate industry, which is a challenging industry from an intellectual standpoint. What we do is difficult. It's not simple. Some of the tenets are simple, but what we do is actually rather complex. So explaining where you're at and getting advice from people who aren't in the industry isn't nearly as helpful as talking to somebody who actually has done it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that was the pin of an early on trainer that I worked with, Bob McComb. He's been educating for years out of California. Well, his call to fame is dedicate yourself to mastery, and I've borrowed it, I've taken it, I use it, and it was a great one. But dedicating yourself to mastery 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, how, with whom? Everybody knows who CCIM is in commercial real estate, even then. But then it was, to Anna Maria's point, it was just them. If you knew about them, you could go there, and that was the big one. There weren't these great education programs at every university. And Becca, to your point, there wasn't transparency on, hey, this is your mentor. You should go into this mentoring program, or you should even think about mentoring programs. At least here in the East Coast, they just didn't exist. Even for me, looking around, there was always another one of Bob McComb's, and I'll throw it out there, was you want to teach people how to fish, not throw bones. So you bring on, and I've trained 30 some odd agents now commercially, and you always want to teach them how to go build their business, because if you're throwing them bones, what happens when you don't have enough bones? Then they're just happy. They can't get their job done, and so on and so forth. So I guess the shout out to the mentor on the car for two of us and great network is Jonathan Stein. Anna Maria, I know you know Jonathan as well. So we can't talk networking and net worth of network without bringing up Jonathan Stein.
That's true. And even Becca knows him well. In fact, I think it was Becca, you and I had met through him the very first time.
That's how I met Andreas also.
That's right.
And because I was a 1-year assistant with an 8-week-old baby at home, and I was at ICSC, and because Jonathan Stein is completely egalitarian, he literally just came over and said hello, because I was standing by myself at the Inland party in Las Vegas, didn't know a single soul there. I'd been dragged there by our old marketing director, and then she ditched me.
Oh boy.
And Jonathan Stein came over and said hello, and then he continued every 6 months to ask me to coffee, to ask about my career, and to mentor me.
That's wonderful.
No, Jonathan, similarly, Jonathan and I bumped into each other at a show and then in other instances. And he, to this day, is a hard guy to follow at these shows. He moves fast, but he does know everything. And it is proof in the process of networking with Jonathan. So, Jonathan, if you're listening, which you should be, two of your favorite people here.
I invited him.
Hat tip to you here. But outside of that, you're both in commercial, you're both learning, you both have mentors of different sizes, shapes, as you've both aptly pointed out. Outside of the industry, advice is hard. Everybody thinks they know, and they don't know. It is a very complex business built on relationships. Not even going into the difficulties of the CPACE programs and educating people in that area. I'm not touching there. But what did you? Commercial real estate women has grown tremendously. The creation of, or the adoption of, I should say, Clubhouse, things like that. Is this something you see growing? More and more groups like this? I'm still a member of CCIM and others. I'm just curious for you guys, or is it more mentorship, one-on-one? Less groups, more one-on-one?
No, I think it's the same amount of both increasing at the same time, because each of those organizations too, I'm thinking of CREW, for example, and other women's organizations, then they do have breakout groups that do mentoring, or individually. And so in order to be a member of CREW, you have to be recommended by 2 other members, and and so there's some automatic interaction taking place from the get-go. And so I just see more and more growing with both components, because it's important to have the one-on-one, but then it's also important to bring that then into a greater networking group. And I think it's important to have the group because everyone brings a different perspective, and you might find out about a deal or a project or some piece of information, just randomly that you might not have gotten otherwise. And so, I always say I go to so many events, and so does Becca. If you come away with one person or one idea that you didn't know before, it's a success, a huge success.
Well, I couldn't agree more. At the you meet someone, and it's not to say you're going to do a deal tomorrow. I mean, I've met
Oh,
Becca and Jonathan, and it was always good people helping where we could, in what way we could. This is what we can do, and eventually deals just come out of that in one way or another. And
it's
I just,
relationship,
yeah, and
simply.
that's
And
exactly.
women do relationship particularly well. So, if I may say so myself, for Women's Month and in celebration of us. And in fact, so I just, you'll ask me, what am I doing for my birthday tonight? Well, I'm actually visiting one of my married daughters who lives up here in Michigan, and we're going to a women's church conference. And so as soon as I leave here, my son-in-law is going to drop me off there, and it's all day tomorrow as well. And so it's just really, really topical, and very important for women to gather together on all levels of life, and whether it be work or family or church, or and just bring our power together and all that energy.
I love it. The was talking about all levels of life. You are pioneering, or at least in a very niche space in the
Yes.
working in finance, let alone in the CPACE programs. Does it change your day to day at all? I mean, your co-pilots on these deals. What does it all look like?
So, you know, as far as my day to day, I end up wearing so many hats that I have to, switch out, and so that can get kind of crazy sometimes because not only am I part of the uh, PACE financing group that we have, but also we are founding members of program administration for CPACE here in Illinois. And so that is a nonprofit organization, and my role there is to promote and educate on CPACE. And so I'm flipping hats during my professional day, and then afterwards I'm wife, mom, grandma, and caregiver for my elderly parents, who, by the way, are going to celebrate 65 years of marriage next month. And mom will be 90 3 weeks later. And it's like, wow, I'm so blessed just to, even have them. And it's amazing. I'll never get there, that's for sure.
Oh, no, I'm sure you will and surpass. And it is incredible. Um, what do your parents do, if you don't mind me asking?
So my mom was a teacher in Italy, so she's a direct import. She came over. So I was, by the way, I was made in Italy and born here. So I have additional Italian blood flowing through my veins. Forget that Kowalik last name. That's my husband's. But my dad has always been in the electronic communications field. And in fact, he had one of the first radar endorsements in the Army back when he served, um, uh, actually in the Korean War. And and that's where he met mom on furlough from his stint in France. And so they came back together and started this family here. So
Well, so that given that background, how did you make the jump to real estate? I mean,
And this is an interesting story too, because such a dichotomy in my household. My dad, the American born one, was very strict traditionalist. This is men's place and this is the woman's place. And why aren't you taking home ec in high school? And why, and you should be doing this. A woman doesn't get educated. My mother, the educated one from Italy, was my daughter could be first woman president of the United States. And I still hope to see that, in fact, in my lifetime, not me as president, but a woman. So, but the fact is that it was this push and pull and tug and all of that drama, Italian drama, that really made me very resilient. And so I had studied international finance and modern foreign languages, they called them at that time, the Romance languages. And so then I went into banking with the First National Bank of Chicago at the time, and was there for a while until I married. Kind of helped out with the then family business and had children, and did a couple of little part-time stints, but I really became interested in real estate when I was with Jewel Osco companies, and I decided I needed a full-time job because the kids were beginning to be in school and growing up, and so I got in with one of their real estate divisions and really enjoyed it. Went for my real estate license. And then next thing I know, I heard from Inland there was a position open, and one of my friends recommended me, and the rest is history. And so I just happened into it.
Happened into it is a stretch. It sounds like you found
The
something
journey, quite
uh,
the journey.
and back in, although not a poli sci professor now at this point, how did you end up in real estate? That's quite a jump. Was the 3-day internship, as you mentioned, or 3 days?
Yeah, it was a 3-day temp job, and I just
That was it.
stayed. I just stayed. Yeah. I loved it. I was so focused on academia in college that I saw like the baseball players going to business classes, so I figured that baseball players in business classes were for dumb people, which is unbelievably biased and embarrassing. Shocking to say. I actually just assumed that all athletes were meatheads and not particularly intelligent, and if they could pass business courses, I didn't want to go to those classes. So I literally never took a business course because I thought it wasn't particularly intellectual. That I'm the snobbery and the foolishness of a kid, in their 19-year-old who knows nothing, clearly, only to go into a real estate office where half of my team were attorneys. Half of we were there, it was an investment firm. Everybody was smart. I was so happy. I felt like I found my people. Everybody was so smart and so interesting and so engaged. And so it was my first maternity leave that I realized that I was tired of going to meetings and not understanding the vernacular. So I studied to get my real estate license on maternity leave because I was done like not understanding anything. I was going to keep up really well. I had every intention of keeping up. And I will tell you, I have just met the most wonderful, interesting,
Mhm.
incredibly smart, incredibly kind human beings in my real estate journey. So I look back at my life and all of the strange steps that got me where I was, and I know I found exactly where I was supposed to be in spite of my absolute foolishness as a student.
But don't you feel the same way as I do, Becca, that every day is different in real
Yes,
estate?
it has to
Uh,
be.
and there are so many opportunities to help others. And I was always brought up, to help people, and just always had a heart of a servant and wanting to, get out there and do something good. And so real estate has allowed that for me. And I know it has for many people.
Well, so it sounds like if any of you listening are in real estate and you're not in an exciting environment with trusting people, then you have to kind of look around, maybe reach out, find some new mentors. But
Yeah.
it's all very well said. It's real estate. There is so much, and I don't want to say uncovered talent, but there's so much um, hidden excellence in so many of the people I work with. Because
Mhm.
Anna Maria's point, you have to wear a lot of hats, even if you're not also on a nonprofit and also doing political work, to truly understand the deal and work through it and nurture a relationship, and then also project manage. I'm a big fan of unofficial project management. Project manage everybody involved.
Yeah.
It is hard. And Rebecca, to your earlier statement about, oh, I better go get my license. I will never forget my first meeting, and I won't say which company, where we started talking REITs and real estate securities, and I went, oh boy, and I just I just started writing acronyms down. I said, okay, let me just go back after this call. I will not a lot, and I was surrounded by all the right people, but it was quite it's quite a turn. There's so much here to learn, so much to do. Uh, a bit of a tangent for us, but is given it's Women's History Month, and it's amazing. It's quite all right. As far as we
Hold
come
on,
down,
wait, Andreas.
ahead,
You have a female business partner, don't you?
I do. Business partner and wife and best friend. My
Great.
business partner, who is now my wife, I told her everything I'd never tell my wife. I don't get away with anything anymore. We worked hand in hand in a little 6x8 office doing real estate, growing a residential team, commercial team, and love became in love, and it was just head over heels. And I don't regret a single day of it. So it's thank you for the cue over to my personal life there after my embarrassing acronym story, because I'm dyslexic too. So, um, but yes, Emmy, she is my real prize. And thank you for that. And now you've totally driven all thought out of my head.
I'm sorry.
Isn't that wonderful to have someone in your life who totally distracts you from everything else?
Yes. Yes.
That's amazing, and that's what I have too. I say my Type A personality with my a little lower key husband really works out very, very well.
Well, my wife is also Italian, just to throw that out there. And since we now went down this path, Becca, we also moved in Vegas. So shout out to everyone else on the call. I think the work-life balance of it all is fantastic. You can't get that anywhere else. In real estate, you can work and be as great as you want to be, as much energy as you have. And luckily, I get to do lunch with my wife, so that's not bad at all.
Awesome.
So as far as the industry overall, we've news-wise, heading-wise, I mean, we're already at the 20s of the hour. What is the biggest thing on your mind? What is the thing that you're worried about but not necessarily focused on that's changing for your side of the business marketing-wise? And then Anna Maria, same question.
Go ahead, Becca. You tackle it first.
Okay, so I'm going to tackle it in two areas, okay? Because I want to tackle it real estate, and we're definitely going to have to make Saul watch this, because I'm going to jump in on some things that he would normally have a strong opinion on and conversation on. And one piece of that is the State of the Union and the incredible focus on infrastructure that I heard there. Because we know that infrastructure and government funding drives development and drives many things in the future. So as I get out my imaginary crystal ball and think about, but I consider what the future is going to hold, infrastructure and the impact on the real estate around it, and the focus of the government on improving our infrastructure, I think is going to be a driving factor in real estate. And I'm very curious to see how that plays out. Now, there was also a lot said about energy. So, Anna Maria, I'm not going to talk about that because you can talk about energy, but Saul would say that we should focus on where the government incentives are. because that's really a very strong way to build a career and a business in real estate, is by focusing on where government incentives lie, and that it really dictates the future. So on real estate, that's what I've been thinking about.
And I would agree with that to a certain extent about the incentives. And CPACE works side by side with those incentives. It doesn't replace any of them. It doesn't,
Right.
but it's a good partner. And yes, energy. Whoa, so exciting. I can't even begin to talk about it. It's just that whether it's on a small level of just replacing HVACs on one building and making the building more efficient, more comfortable for its tenants, with air purification systems that keep the air cleaner, so that in these hopefully post COVID days, we see more well buildings. But to the larger EV infrastructure that's going to need to happen over the coming years, I think there's just really so much going on. And I mean, I look forward to just trying to keep up with it all. I don't know where we're going to begin or where we're going to end, but as I said, already projects are beginning to multiply, and I just think there's one way to go, and that's up. Hopefully, the one concern I have, war in Europe is never a good thing, and so, hearts, our prayers and everything go out to the Ukrainian people,
Absolutely.
and certainly, uh, we have yet to see where this goes and what the impact is going to be, and that could have impact on us as much as I think sometimes we think we're an island here in the U.S. We're very blessed to be protected by borders of water, but we just hope that we learn from the past and continue to move forward.
Well said. We are citizens of this world and our neighbors in Ukraine, and the travesties that are going on in the different places. It does affect us whether you want to believe it or not. Look at the price of crude oil. I mean, it'll help the CPACE programs inevitably and things like it as these things become more expensive, as regulation pushes for net zero carbon emissions. As countries say, wait a minute, we need to take care of our planet. How do we do that? So these are all, as you both pointed out, ways and areas where people and money, as Saul would say, you got to follow the money. Where the money is. So just in your space, in your space with pace, excuse me, program.
Twister.
Yes. Room for many more professionals. If we're out there, finance professionals, is that an area they should be looking at?
Yes, absolutely, because it's going to have exponential growth. It already has over the years. I mean, when you look at the over 2,000 just commercial projects that have been done over the last 10 years, it's only a really 10-year-old program. The first CPACE financings occurred in late 2011, early 2012. So, very young. But the bulk of them have happened just in the last couple of years. I'd say the biggest growth was between 2016, 2017, and now. So when you're talking a geometric progression growth like that, I think any type of commercial finance is wonderful area for anyone to seek to attain a career in, because there's a need. And in fact, we're hiring right now. Inland Green Capital is hiring. So we're looking for a financial analyst. So if there's anybody out there who's interested, we're a great group to work with.
And your marketing tells a compelling story overall. Inland does a great job on social and otherwise, and the story of Inland for another call for
Oh,
teachers and Jonathan, the fifth teacher,
amazing.
just truly wonderful. So, Becca, as far as the marketing side, because you didn't touch on it before, what's the big worry or what's driving there? You gave us the real estate answer.
All right. So in the marketing world, I think there are a couple of things that I have kind of broader overall concern, which I always have. And one of those is our uh, dependence on social media, because
Mhm.
there is a reality that social media is owned by companies that then own all of the data that we can use for a fee or this, that, and the other. But the reality is, like, you don't own your contacts. So if you have followers, you don't really actually have them. Like, because if your social media account was erased, you wouldn't have them anymore. They'd just be gone.
Yeah.
So there's, and that dovetails a little bit into privacy, because I do recognize that things are changing and they should change for privacy purposes. So there's a lot of movement, but our dependence on some of the newer ways of having relationships without bolstering those historical ways of maintaining relationships, I think is a real failure. So I would say that, like, a siloed approach to
Mhm.
outbound communication and marketing is really something to be concerned about, because I don't know that the future is as uh, clear as some might want it to be, simply because the the companies that are hosting every one of these platforms, they're susceptible to acquisition, to government shutdown, to they have risk factors also. And so it just, I don't like depending on them as like the only form of
That's
communication.
very astute, Becca, because, I'm very concerned as a grandmother of eight, and still growing. Uh, the fact is, how soon do you my children are dealing with this. How soon do you introduce their children to a technology when it's already a part of their lives from the time that they're born? And there are a lot of concerns. And as Jonathan would say, there's nothing replaces shaking hands and looking a person in the eye. And so, and I'm a firm believer in that as well. And so I think that while it's important, to participate in a lot of social
Right.
media and whatnot, but to depend on it solely, or not to incorporate all the other aspects of marketing and promotion is really senseless.
So fall back to the tried and true shaking hands and running the conference floor, as Jonathan envisions in my mind here, because that is it's sales vernacular. It's sales methodology, right? Multiple
Mhm.
touches to get a deal. You cannot.
That's right.
Um, and forgive me for saying it this way. As far as marketing, the best marketing job ever done was how important marketing is, and it will solve anything. You don't even need sales.
That is that's so frustrating as a marketer. Like, I can't replace your sales department. Like, for real, me posting once a week for you on LinkedIn, it doesn't change the fact that you still have to call people. Like, how
It's a thing. They're like, oh no, I'll just throw marketing dollars at it. And I was
it's
talk I was talking with a nonprofit the other day, and huge budget for this, and we're going back and forth, and he's very successful conversion. The donors are coming. It's looking good. And I said, so what are you worried about? He goes, well, it's not like it's not like more money equals more conversion. It's not how it works. And I said, well, what do you mean? Just throw more money. If it's working, he goes, well, no, it doesn't work. You need the people, you need the messaging, you have to craft, you have to adjust. There's so much that goes into it. And I am a huge fan of sales solves all things, and marketing supports sales,
Absolutely.
my brokerage
Mhm.
days, development
Absolutely.
days.
Mhm.
You still need the developer, the leasing team on the ground selling it, and even the PACE program, which should sell itself because it's so good, right? You still got to explain it and teach it.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there anything as far as the CPACE program, regulation wise, future wise? There's nothing but full steam ahead there. There's
You know
no.
what? It is pretty much full steam ahead because we still have states that haven't enabled PACE. So far, only 37 states and DC have come on board. So we still have the remaining states to win over. And this is not a political kind of an item because it's economic development, it's business retention, it works for everybody. So it really doesn't have any lines drawn of politically, and certainly states that had joined in early on and uh, kind of restricted it or made it or tried to govern it too much, put in additional requirements that aren't working and haven't been rendering are already beginning to update their legislation and amend and try to get it, back to the simple tenets of what is commercial property assessed clean energy. It's supposed to be a simple, quick, efficient means of putting private equity investment into private projects. So I think we're all trying to get back to the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, so to speak.
And networking. In
Yes,
many
and
cases, as
networking.
we go back out into
Absolutely.
the world.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's well, it's been another great roundtable with both of you, and as we started the call with celebration of Women's History Month and women in business, and just everyone in business. It is such an evolving landscape, and I am blessed with the level of excellence around me. It's astounding when you go to look in all facets because we are a networking and driven group in real estate. I don't know a single person in commercial who doesn't know how to identify an obstacle, or at least once identified, try to blow through it. To Becca's point, you didn't know they were there, so it's not an obstacle. Let me just go to the other side of the road. How do I get there? And that's what you find time and time again in this space. That all being said, Mr. Mendoza, what do you see for Women's History Month in 10 years with your little daughter? Is she on camera back there? Our show
No,
producer?
yeah, my show producer just left. He was, she gets home as soon as the show starts. So as soon as the show starts, she comes wandering in. Hey, Daddy, I'm home. Um, I see a lot more opportunity. I see a lot of normalization already sort of happening as far as like gender roles in business and things like that. Because I see it a lot just in school. Like things are already kind of changing. I think as far as like what's expected of girls versus boys, a lot of those sort of stereotypes are kind of falling away more and more and more. Even to the point that like when we talk about things like that, we're like, there's we talk about it in terms of it being sort of like, oh well, that's sort of old school or old fashioned, or oh that's like an old fashioned way of thinking
Yeah.
about it, which is kind of how you explain someone that maybe is like boys will be boys or something like that. That there's truth in it, but it's also a little bit sort of like outdated, you know. And so that's kind of what I see from being a father of a 4-year-old.
Love it.
Um,
Love it.
and I just think that a lot of these things are just going to be kind of become more normalized, hopefully within 10-20 years, by the time she's an adult and joining the workforce, we won't have to think about differences in pay and things like that. Stuff will have caught up. A lot of our ideals will have caught up with our sort of practical solutions.
And about that time, regulation should catch up with tech. Just kidding to any of those tech regulators out there.
I mean, that's never going to happen.
All right, so 3 minutes to go. The one big takeaway I heard from Anna Maria was say yes to PACE, whether it's professionally to look into it or even as a real estate owner investor. It's just an add value. No detraction from the value. It partners well with everyone, with everything. I love the fact that you can go in and include it in your capital stack and eliminate some of that skin in the game from my developer hat, from my broker hat. Anytime we can get more funding in play to get the deal done is always a win in those cases. And Becca, to your point, if I heard correctly, although social and marketing shouldn't be the sole play, which I agree entirely. It is something that people kind of have to be aware of because that reliance is not good. And I remember having talks with you 3 years ago on Jim Fried's show, I think at that point, about Twitch. Like, do I need to be on Twitch? And I used to, Anna Maria, you don't know this, but I used to say that Twitter was for people that couldn't write and Instagram's for people that can't read. What do I need to do? I don't need to be on either of those things. Here we are broadcasting to Twitter, Instagram, and all of those things because your audience is there. So it sounds to me, to close the loop on that, Becca, is people should be paying more attention to not just the median of communication, but making sure that they find ways to double back in a more sales methodology. It's not just because I connect with you on email, although we love our email in commercial real estate.
We do.
Today. And with that, we're at the top of the hour. I am super excited for next month when the rest of the Roundtable hosts come back to join us. Anna Maria, welcome to the show officially.
Thank you.
First episode and counting. I hope you have a wonderful time at your retreat. Not retreat,
Thank
conference.
you. Yeah. It's a women's conference. It'll be great. Yes.
Which is super exciting and just a great month with everyone. Anything to say to our listeners as we tune out? I know Reagan is going to roll through how to reach you guys. But if you want to jump in and say how and why, that works as well.
Just thank you. Love this group. Love this audience. And looking forward to coming back.
Fantastic. Becca?
Well, I want to say happy birthday to Anna Maria, because that is
thank
very
you.
important. And a happy birthday to Saul.
Yes.
Important. Be safe, Darren, in the UK.
And happy birthday to Reagan on Monday.
Yes.
That's right.
On Monday. And congratulations on being in your new home and broadcasting from your home office, Andreas.
Yes. Believe it or not, 130 days into it, I finally hung the microwave in the kitchen instead of using one on the counter. But it's all good problems.
Yeah.
With that, Mr. Mendoza, will you lead us out for this month? Unless you're with your daughter.